Chapter 6, Information Technology Security Policy Frameworks. Learning Objective and Key Concepts. The learning objective is to describe issues related to information system security, ISS, policy implementation, and enforcement. The key concepts are 4. First being building blocks of a security policy framework, types of documents for a security policy framework. 3. Information system security and information assurance considerations. And lastly, considerations for creating a security policy framework. What is an information technology policy framework? First, includes policies, standards, baselines, procedures, guidelines, and taxonomy. Secondly, many frameworks resemble a hierarchy or a tree, how the tree branches. Thirdly, an organization's security posture is often expressed in terms of risk appetite and risk tolerance. These have a lot to do with the makeup of the company, their wealth, their management style, so many factors. Then risk appetite generally refers to how much risk an organization is willing to accept to achieve its goal. And again, that's based a lot of times on what they've got going and what competition there is, what's at stake. And then lastly, risk tolerance relates to how much variance in the process an organization will accept. This is a realization chart of what we covered just in the previous chart, showing the policy and standards library framework, the flow of how that works. Charting risk appetite. You've got at the bottom the increasing levels, you've got acceptable, manageable, and unacceptable. And it has a lot to do with the management strategy. What is acceptable, what is manageable, what is unacceptable. But often has to do again about profit loss, competition demands, what you need to do for the customer, so on and so forth. If you look at how to set risk appetite, you need to define your organizational goals and how you're going to meet them. Identify anything that may impact those goals, such as risk, opportunities, or impacts. Then you need to determine the upper and lower limits for each risk category. You need to design approaches for managing risk within those limits, and you need to draft risk appetite statements that describe the level and type of risk you are willing to take. And lastly, engage with stakeholders and risk oversight committees to ensure alignment and approval. What is a program framework policy or a charter? High-level policy defines the program's purpose and mission, the program's scope within the organization, assignment of responsibilities for program implementation, and compliance management. What is a program framework policy or charter? First, you have purpose and mission. This states the purpose and the mission of the program. This part of the policy states that the purpose and mission of the program. You must define the goals of the IT security program and its management structure. The needs can form the basis of the program's goals. Integrity, availability, and confidentiality are common security-related needs. Most e-commerce systems maintain confidential personal data. In this case, the goals might include stronger protection against unauthorized disclosures. You should create a structure that addresses alignment with program and organizational goals. Next is scope. Specifies what the program covers. This usually includes resources, information, and personnel. In some instances, a policy may name specific assets, such as major sites and large systems. Sometimes you must make tough management decisions when defining the scope of a program. Responsibilities. A policy should state the responsibilities of personnel and departments related to the program. This includes the role of managers, users, and IT organization. This is also referred to as the program's delegation of authority. And lastly, compliance is the ability to reasonably ensure conformity and adherence to both internal and external policies, standards, procedures, laws, and regulations. A program-level policy should address enforcement of the policy. For example, what happens if someone doesn't comply with computer security policies? ISO/IEC 2702, 2015. The International Organization for Standardization and the International Electrotechnical Commission, IEC, develop and publish international standards. The Code of Practice for Information Security Controls. This is a popular industry standard for establishing and managing IT security. It outlines 15 main areas that compose the frameworks. Foreword describes the overall purpose and key references for the document. This includes scope, terms of reference, structure of the document. Secondly, information security policy describes how management should define an information security policy. Organizations usually maintain detailed security policies in a library. Information security standards, procedures, and guidelines support the library. Thirdly, Organization of Information Security describes how to design and implement an information security governance structure. This section describes the need for internal group that manages the program, including the governance of business partners. Fourth, Human Resources Security describes security aspects for employees joining, moving within, or leaving an organization. The organization should manage system access rights. The organization should also provide security awareness training and education. Section 4 covers these employment phases: prior to employment, during employment, termination or change of employment. Number 5 is asset management. 6 is access control. 7 is cryptography. 8 is physical and environmental security. 9 is operation security. 10 is communication security. And 11 is systems acquisition, development, and maintenance. 12 is supplier relationships. 13 is information security incident management. 14 is information security aspects of business continuity management. And 15 is compliance. There are 5 parts to the ISO IEC 30105. Part 1 is process reference model. Number 2 is process assessment model. 3 is measurement framework and organization maturity model. 4 is terms and concepts. And 5th is guidelines. ISO 2707. This standard, Information Technology Security Techniques Guidelines for Information Security Systems Auditing, was published in 2011 and was revived in 2017. When it was revised again in 2020, the name was changed to Information Security, Cybersecurity, and Privacy Protection. Then the NIST Special Publication, SP 800-53. NIST is an agency of the U.S. Department of Commerce. It develops information security standards and guidelines for implementing them. And this particular one, 800-53, is security and privacy controls for federal information systems and organizations, is the primary standard for federal systems. What is a policy? High-level statements, beliefs, goals, and objectives. Helps protect an organization's resources and guide employee behavior. They provide the what and why of security measures. Lack of information security policies and enforcement leaves an organization vulnerable to data breaches, business interpretations, and legal liabilities. Policies describe the details of how a program runs, who is responsible for day-to-day work, how training and awareness are conducted, and how compliance is handled. What are standards? Formal documents that establish uniform criteria that you can evaluate and measure. Methods to accomplish a goal. Repeatable processes and practices for compliance with policies. Issue-specific standard. Focuses on an area of current relevance and concern to your company. System-specific standard or baseline standard focuses on the secure configuration of a specific system, device, operating system, or application. What are procedures? They're written instructions on how to comply with the standard, a specific series of actions or operations that are executed in the same manner repeatedly. They support the policy framework and associated standards by codifying the steps that are proven to yield compliant systems. Examples: incident reporting, server configuration, emergency evacuation. Clear and unambiguous, the procedures should be repeatable, up-to-date, tested, and documented. What are guidelines? Assist people in developing procedures or processes with best practices that other people have found useful. Can clarify issues or problems that have arisen after the publication of a standard. They provide the people who implement standards or baselines more detailed information and guidance, hints, tips, processes, etc. to aid in compliance. They are optional in a library but are often helpful. They may become a standard when their adoption is widely accepted and implemented. Business considerations for the framework. First, let's consider cost. The cost of implementing and maintaining the framework. Just anytime you want to know something, follow the money. So you have to look at the budgeting. The impact is the impact of the controls required by the framework on employees, customers, and business processes. Goals for policy and standards development and compliance. CISO establishes and maintains security and risk management programs for information resources. Information Resources Manager maintains policies and procedures that provide for security and risk management of information resources. Information Resources Security Officer directs policies and procedures designed to protect information resources, identifies vulnerabilities, and develops security awareness program. Owners of information resources. The responsibility for carrying out the program that uses the resources does not imply personal ownership. Roles for policy and standards development and compliance. Custodians of information resources. They provide technical facilities, data processing, and other support services to owners and users of information resources. Technical managers. They provide technical support for security of information resources. Internal auditors conduct periodic risk-based reviews to ensure the effectiveness of information resources, security policies, and procedures. Control partners. They ensure that security policies result in operational compliance with risk appetite and regulatory requirements. Lastly, users. They have access to information resources in accordance with the owner-defined controls and access control. Information assurance considerations. Confidentiality broadly means limiting disclosure of information to authorized individuals. This could include protecting the privacy of personal data and proprietary information. To meet confidentiality requirements, your security objectives must be specific, concrete, and well-defined. Consider the goal of confidentiality as applied to email as example. Integrity refers to guarding against improper modification or destruction of data. One way to meet integrity requirements is to define operational policies that list the rules for operating a system. Access control rules in the form of permissions are often used to achieve this goal. Integrity can be achieved by limiting the type of permission to only certain accounts. For example, You might have a file that is widely accessible to read, but that only a few individuals have permission to modify. Managers must make decisions when developing policies because it's unlikely that all security objectives will be fully met. Availability is the timely and reliable accessibility of information. To meet requirements for availability, your policy framework may include documents specifying when and how systems must be accessible to internal and external users. This can lead to different solutions for different needs. For example, external users require different forms of access than internal users. An external user might be required to use a virtual private network, VPN for instance, to access the internal network. Best practices for IT security policy framework creation. When implementing policies, use various methods to spread the word throughout your organization, such as presentations, videos, panel discussions, road shows, and newsletters. Introduce computer security policies in a manner that ensures that management support is clear, especially where employees feel overwhelmed with policies, directives, guidelines, and procedures. State core principles in the form of goals up front. This defines what the framework must achieve. Get buy-in on the what, and then get others to work together with you on the how. Gain ownership from key user groups by offering them choices on how to achieve policy goals. Case studies and examples. Private Sector 1, Alberta Health Services. Establish a policy development and document management framework. Goes beyond policy creation and approval and has a whole section on policy implementation and a section on how to review the policy and evaluate its efficiency. Private Sector 2, University of Huddersfield in England, published a policy development framework. It describes a policy owner responsible for the development and dissemination of the policy, as well as maintenance and review. It suggests, when needed, consultation with subject matter expert. A large section is devoted to approval of policies and policy changes. Case studies and examples, page 2. Public sector, state of Tennessee, for example, used ISO/IEC 17799, then in parentheses 27002. The policies and frameworks covered all information asset owned, leased, or controlled by the state of Tennessee. The practices of external parties that need access to the state of Tennessee's information resources. Private Sector 3, Target Corporation, December 2013 point of sale data breach. 40 million credit cards records were stolen. 70 million records containing PII. Largest data breaches of its kind. Serious weaknesses in the information security framework and related control. Summary. Building blocks of a security policy framework. Types of documents for security policy framework. Information System Security, ISS, and Information Assurance considerations, and considerations for creating a security policy framework. Policy framework development is needed for the establishment and ongoing operation of the organization's security program. It establishes the top leadership's intent as to how information security should be managed. This program begins in documentation in the form of policies, standards, baselines, procedures, and guidance for compliance. The library of documents is arranged as a hierarchy with the highest level consisting of a charter. The next level includes policies, followed by an increasing number of standards and baseline documents. These documents are supplemented with guidelines to aid in implementation. Finally, many procedure documents that explicitly describe how to implement a security control or process are included. The library should be developed and managed by dedicated personnel who are experts in the subject matter related to the organization's industry or mission.